there and hopefully land the gig. I first noticed the guy at the airport gate. I was sitting there scrolling through my phone, waiting for boarding. He was a few seats away, maybe in his late 42nds, average build, wearing a gray hoodie and jeans. He had this messy hair and a backpack that looked worn out. At first, I thought he was just another traveler, but then I caught him staring at me. Not a quick glance, but a long, unblinking stare. I looked up, and he didn't turn away right away. He just smiled faintly and nodded like we knew each other. I didn't recognize him at all. I gave a polite half smile back and went back to my phone, figuring it was nothing. Airports are full of weirdos. Sometimes boarding started and I got in line. He was right behind me, close enough that I could smell his cheap cologne mixed with sweat. As we shuffled forward, he cleared his throat and said, "First time to Chicago." His voice was low and raspy, like he smoked too much. I turned slightly and said, "No, I've been a few times." I kept it short, not wanting to chat. He nodded and said, "Me too. Great city for business." Then, he asked what I did for work. I mumbled something about tech and turned back around. He didn't push it, but I felt his eyes on my back the whole time we boarded. On the plane, I settled into my seat, 22B. He walked past me toward the brawn back, and I relaxed a bit. The flight took off without issues. I put on my headphones and tried to nap, but about 20 minutes in, I felt someone watching me. I opened my eyes and there he was, 2 rows ahead, twisted in his seat. Glancing back, our eyes met again, and he smiled that same weird smile. I shifted uncomfortably and looked out the Praske window. Maybe he was just bored. The flight was smooth, no turbulence. I got up once to use the bathroom, and as I walked back, I saw him unbuckling his seatbelt, whatever I thought. But then, halfway through the flight, the seat belt sign was off, and people were moving a little. Suddenly, he stood up, grabbed his backpack, and started talking to the flight attendant. I couldn't hear what he said, but the next thing I knew, he was switching seats with the guy next to me in 22C. The attendant helped facilitate it, probably thinking it was a simple request. Now he was right beside me in the window seat. "Hope you don't mind," he said as he sat down. My old seat had a crying baby nearby. This is better. There was no baby anywhere near where he'd been sitting. I just nodded and said, "No problem." But inside, my stomach twisted. Why me? There were other empty seats. He didn't say much at first. He pulled out a notebook and started scribbling something, glancing at me. Every few minutes, I pretended to watch a movie on my phone, but I could see him in my peripheral vision. Then he leaned over a bit and said, "You look familiar. Have we met before?" I shook my head. "No, I don't think so." He chuckled softly Maybe in another life. That creeped me out, but I laughed it off. Nervously, he asked more questions. Where I was staying in Chicago. What? Hotel? I lied and said I was crashing. With a friend. He nodded like he didn't. Believe me, and went back to his notebook. I peeked once and saw him, drawing what looked like a rough sketch of a face. It kind of resembled mine, but I told myself I was imagining things. The rest of the flight dragged on. He didn't touch his tray table or order anything, just sat there, occasionally humming a tune I didn't recognize. When we landed, I grabbed my carry-on fast and hurried off the plane, not looking back. I thought that was the end of it. At baggage claim, I waited. For my suitcase, the carousel started spinning, and I scanned the crowd. There, he was, standing across from me, staring. Again, no luggage in sight for him. He waved, casually, like we were buddies. My heart rate picked up. I grabbed my bag as soon as it appeared and headed for the exit, weaving through people to lose him outside in the taxi line. It was crowded with travelers. I joined the queue, checking my phone for an Uber instead. But then I looked up. He was 3 people behind me, backpack slung over his shoulder. How did he get? They're so fast. I stepped out of line and walked toward the rental car shuttles, pretending that's where I was going. I ducked into a bathroom, waited 5 minutes, then came out and headed to the Uber pickup area. I got in an Uber, told the driver my hotel address, the Marriott downtown. As we pulled away, I looked back. No sign of him. Relieved, I leaned back and tried to shake off the paranoia. Maybe it was all a coincidence. But at the hotel check-in, as I waited in line, I felt a tap on my shoulder. I turned and there he was, smiling. Fancy meeting you here, he said. Which floor are you on? My blood ran cold. How? I hadn't told him the hotel. I stammered, excuse me, and stepped away, but he followed. We should grab a drink later, he called. Out. I ignored him and checked in quickly, then took the elevator to my room on the 12th floor. I locked the door, chained it, and sat on the bed, breathing hard. Was he following me? For what? I thought about calling the front desk, but what would I say? A guy from my flight is here. That night, I ordered room service instead of going out. Around 10 p.m., my phone rang. The hotel line. I answered, and it was him. Hey, neighbor, room 1215. Come over if you can't sleep. I hung up terrified. How did he get my room number? I called the front desk. They said no one had asked for me, but he knew. The next morning, I had my interview. I left early, took a side exit. At the office building, I felt safe. Security desk, badges. The interview went okay, but I was distracted. Afterward, I grabbed coffee at a Starbucks nearby. As I sat down, he walked in, ordered, and sat at the table next to mine. "Good luck with the job," he said, winking. That was it. I couldn't take it anymore. I left my coffee and hurried out, hailing a cab back to the airport. My return flight wasn't until the evening, but I wanted out. At the airport, I scanned everywhere, no sign. I went through security, found a gate far away, and hid in a corner. But as boarding started for my flight home, there he was in line, again staring. I panicked and approached a TSA agent. "That man is following me," I said, pointing him out. "From the flight here, the hotel, everywhere. Please help." The agent took it seriously. They pulled him aside for questioning. I watched from a distance as he argued, but they detained him. Turns out, he had no ticket for my flight. He just followed me through the airport. Police got involved, and they found his notebook, pages of notes about my description, even my LinkedIn profile printed out. He'd seen my post about the interview online somehow and fixated on me at the airport. I made it home safe, but I still check over my shoulder. Creeps like that are real, and sometimes they pick you for no reason at all. Every air traffic controller dreams of the big leagues. When I was in training, my head was filled with images of orchestrating the complex ballet of 747 seconds at JFK, or managing the relentless arrivals at LAX. I saw myself as a future maestro of the skies, a calm voice in the chaos, holding hundreds of lives in the palm of my hand. From a state-of-the-art command center, I aced my exams, spent countless hours in simulators, and graduated near the top of my class. I was ready. The industry, it turned out, wasn't quite as ready for me. The rejection letters started as a trickle, then became a flood. "Thank you for your interest, but we've decided to move forward with candidates who have more experience." It was the classic catch-22. You can't get experience without a job, and you can't get a job without experience. My dreams of bustling international hubs were replaced by the harsh reality of my dwindling savings account. Dejected, I started expanding my search, scrolling deeper into the job boards until the airport codes were no longer familiar. Three-letter giants, but obscure. Combinations I had to look up on a map. That's how I found Meadow Creek Airfield. The posting was modest, almost an apology, seeking night shift controller. The description mentioned a single-line airist strip and light, primarily private and cargo traffic. It was nestled between acres of farmland, a place most people would only ever see from 30,000 feet. It was the absolute antithesis of my dream, but it was a job. It was a way to get the hours, to get that crucial line on my resume. I applied, interviewed, over a crackly video call with a man who looked like he'd been running the place since the dawn of aviation. And to my mild surprise, I got the offer. So I packed up my life and moved to the middle of nowhere. I told myself it was temporary, a stepping stone. The first few months were exactly as advertised, quiet, uneventful, and mind-numbingly boring. I'd handle maybe 3 or 4 planes a shift. The rest of the time was spent reading paperbacks and watching the prostrate seasons change across the endless fields. Slowly, I settled into a rhythm. The disappointment faded, replaced by a quiet acceptance. I actually started to like it. The peace, the solitude. It beat another rejection letter. The tower was my own little world, a glass, encased, bubble perched atop, a squat concrete stalk. Below me, the single runway of Meadow Creek Airfield stretched out like a long, dark scar across the patchwork quilt of moonlit fields. My job, especially on the graveyard shift, was mostly about being a voice in the dark for the occasional small propeller plane or cargo jumper making a late-night run. It was a lonely gig, but I'd come to appreciate the solitude, the gentle hum of the radar equipment, and the rhythmic sweep of the beacon were my only companions most nights. That night started like any other. The air was still. The sky, a deep, star-flected black. At around 2 a.m., I was tracking a small Cessna on its final approach. Everything was routine. I'd given the pilot the all clear, and his landing lights were a brilliant white against the inky blackness as his plane descended, its lights illuminated runway. And that's when I saw it. A figure standing right in the middle of the strip. My heart hammered against my ribs. I snatched the binoculars from the 5 console, my hands suddenly slick with sweat. The figure was tall and gaunt, dressed in what looked like dark, ragged clothing. It was just standing there, motionless, directly in the path of the landing plane, Meadow Creek Tower 2, Cessna November 75. Charlie, go around. I repeat, go around. The unidentified person on the runway. I yelled into my headset, my voice cracking. The Cessna's engine roared as the pilot aborted the comba, landing, banking sharply to the left. The plane's lights swept across the runway again as it climbed, but now there was nothing there. The figure was gone. What the hell was that Meadow Creek? The pilot's voice crackled in my ear, a mix of adrenaline and confusion. I don't know, I stammered, my eyes scanning the empty runway. Stand by. I immediately called security, my voice trembling as I reported the runway. Incursion. 2 of our guys, old Gus and a younger fellow named Mark, were on it. Within minutes, their pickup trucks, headlights cutting across the dark airfield. I watched from the tower as they drove the length of the runway, their searchlights probing the tall grass on either side. They found nothing. Not a single footprint, not a discarded piece of clothing, nothing. When Gus called up to the tower, his voice was laced with a weary skepticism. I knew all too well. You sure you saw someone, kid? We've been up and down. This strip twice. There's nothing out. Here but crickets. I know what I saw. Gus, I insisted. But even to my own ears, my voice sounded thin and uncertain. The rest of my shift was a blur of nervous energy. Every shadow seemed to morph into a lurking figure. Every gust of wind sounded like a whisper. By the time the sun began to bleed over the horizon, I was a wreck. I handed over the watch to the day shift controller, a cheerful guy named Dave, who barely seemed to notice my rattled state. The drive home was usually my favorite part of the day, a quiet 20-minute journey through winding country roads. But that morning, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. About halfway home, I noticed a dark, beat-up sedan in my rear view mirror. It was keeping a steady distance, but every turn I made, it made the same one. I tried to rationalize it. It's a small town, and a lot of people take the same routes. But when I took a deliberate, unnecessary left turn onto a deserted side road, and the sedan followed without hesitation, a cold dread washed over me. I pressed down on the accelerator, my heart pounding in my ears. The sedan matched my speed. I didn't dare drive to my house. Instead, I looped back towards town, my eyes constantly flicking to the rear view mirror. After a few more turns, the sedan abruptly turned off and disappeared. I waited for a long time, my car idling on the side of the road, before I finally felt safe enough to go home. I tried to brush it off as a coincidence. My nerves still shot from the incident at the airfield, but the feeling of unease lingered. I double-checked all the locks on my doors and windows before finally collapsing into bed, emotionally and physically exhausted. I don't know how long I was asleep, but I woke with a start. There was a noise downstairs, a soft scraping, sound like something being dragged. Across the floor, I lay there frozen in, my bed straining to hear. It was probably just the house settling, I told myself. But then I heard a floorboard creak on the stairs. Someone was in my house. My breath caught in my throat. I slowly, silently slid out of bed and crept towards my bedroom door. I could hear the faint rhythmic breathing of someone just outside. My hand was on the door lock knob when it began to turn from the other side. I backed away, my mind screaming. The door swung open to reveal a tall, shadowy figure. It was the same gaunt silhouette I had seen on the runway. He lunged at me. I scrambled backward, tripping over my own feet and crashing to the floor. The figure was on me in an instant, the knife raised high. I threw my arms up to defend myself, and a searing pain shot through my forearm as the blade sliced through my skin. I screamed, a raw, primal sound that tore from my throat. Fueled by a surge of pure terror, I kicked out wildly, my foot connecting with his knee. He grunted and stumbled, giving me the 1-second opening I needed. I scrambled past him out the bedroom door and sprinted for the stairs, warm, blood streaming down my arm. I didn't look back. I just ran. I burst out of my front door and into the pre-dawn chill, not stopping until I was halfway down the street, hammering on my neighbor's door and screaming for help. When the police arrived, my house was empty. The front door was wide open, just as I left it. They found a trail of my blood from the bedroom to the front porch, but that was it. No signs of forced entry, no fingerprints, no weapon. They never identified him. The case went cold. Another file in a dusty cabinet. I quit my job at Meadow Creek the next day and moved out of that house, out of that town. I never got another job in air traffic control. The dreams of LAX and JFK were gone, replaced by a recurring nightmare of a tall, gaunt figure, standing in the dark, waiting. Sometimes, on quiet nights, I still get the feeling I'm being watched, and the scar on my forearm burns like a fresh wound. I landed close to midnight after a long connection. The airport felt half asleep. Dim lights, quiet announcements, cleaners pushing carts that squeaked every few seconds. My phone was at 17%. I followed the signs toward ground transportation, rolling my suitcase over. Tile that clicked like a metronome. I wanted a normal taxi, a receipt, a ride, a bed, nothing else. Outside, the air hit me. A mix of exhaust, cold air from sliding doors, and the sweet smell of someone's cheap cologne floating in the pool line. A row of yellow cabs idled under a bright official taxi sign. There was a small queue behind a rope and a uniform. Dispatcher with a clipboard. I took my spot and relaxed a little. Safe choice. I kept my backpack strap wrapped around my wrist the way I do in busy places. That's when a man waved. From the side, past the pillars where the sidewalk ended and the shadows began. He wore a reflective vest with no logo. He moved like he already knew me, smiling too hard. He had the kind of smile that says, "Don't think, just follow." "Taxi," he said, pointing at me, then at himself. He tapped a laminated card that hung from his neck. No seal, no barcode. It looked like it was printed at home. He kept waving like he was trying to pull me on a string. I shook my head and pointed to the official line. He shook his head back and stepped closer. "Official taxi," he said. "No, wait. Better price." I looked over at the dispatcher. The dispatcher was helping a family load bags, head turned away. The line moved slowly. My hotel was 30 minutes out. My brain started to do the tired math. Wait here for 10 minutes or go now and sleep. Sooner. The man must have seen that little tug of impatience because he smiled wider and pointed toward the far end of the curb where the lights didn't reach. His car wasn't with the cabs. It was parked near a dark corner by an old bus sign. Engine off. No dome light. No medallion. My stomach tightened. No. Thanks, I said. I tried to keep my voice flat. He stepped in front of my suitcase. The meter is broken tonight. I give you a flat rate. Very cheap. I tried to move left. He moved left too. I tried right. He mirrored me again. Shoe scuffing my wheel. The smile went away like someone flipped a switch. Where were you staying? He said, tell me. I know the fastest way. I didn't answer. I put my phone in my pocket like I was done looking at it. In truth, I pressed the side button twice to bring up the emergency options. My thumb hovered. He leaned closer in a low voice. It's not safe here, he said. Too many thieves. Come with me. I help you. His eyes weren't friendly. They were searching, counting my bags, my watch. The way a person looks at a shelf before. They lift something. Behind me, the line shifted. A woman stepped up and noticed us. She gave me the smallest nod like, you okay? I gave the smallest nod back, then pulled my suitcase toward the official line. The man moved with me. Again, shoulder tight against mine, trying to push me away from the rope. Come, he said, sharper now. No problem. I said I would help. He reached for my suitcase handle. I pulled it back, grip burning my palm. The plastic tag on his fake badge flashed under the overhead lamp, and I saw it clearly. The edges were peeling. The laminate had bubbles. I said, I'm fine. I'm taking the official taxi. He puffed, out of breath through his nose, then smiled again, but this time it was thin. He stepped sideways and planted a foot just inside my path, like he could pen me. In with his body. I kept my face blank. Inside, my chest felt hollow and hot. I looked past him at the dispatcher. Excuse me, I said, raising my voice. Is this the official taxi area? The dispatcher finally turned. His eyes moved from me to the man, and something in his posture changed. He set the clipboard down. The man clicked his tongue like I was rude, like I'd broken a kid deal. He hissed. You made a mistake. Big mistake. Then turned fast and walked toward the dark end of the curb. He didn't go to the car. He went around it, disappearing between two vans. My skin prickled. I stepped into the rope line as if a thin nylon cord could keep anything out. The dispatcher came over and asked if I was okay. I said yes, but it came out breathing. He stared past me toward the corner and then waved a security guard. A minute later, 2 guards and a police officer were walking toward the shadows with flashlights. I kept my eyes on the official taxis. I watched the stickers on their rear. windows, the metal plates on their dashboards, the little lights that said, "On duty." I watched until my brain stopped buzzing. When my turn came, the driver popped the trunk and helped with my bag. He had a printed fare card on the seat back. His name matched the license on the partition. He asked if the air was okay and if I wanted a receipt. My body loosened an inch. We pulled away. I looked out the side window at the dark strip where the man had disappeared. My driver saw me watching and told me in a calm way that people come here to prey on visitors, especially at night, especially when flights are late and people are tired and just want the day to end. He said the airport tries to stop it, but they come back. He said if anyone ever waves from the shadows, no, thank you, and steps into the line. He said the official cars never ever park out there. At the hotel, I double check the locks without thinking. I let the shower run hot until the bathroom filled with steam. I tried to sleep, but every time I closed my eyes, I saw that smile switching off and on like a bad bulb. When I finally slept, it was shallow and full of airport sounds, rolling wheels, a voice saying, "Last call." That line, rope snapping in the wind. In the morning, I turned on the local news while I packed. The anchor's voice was steady, but the crawl at the bottom moved too fast. Warnings issued to travelers after late-night robberies tied to unlicensed drivers. They showed grainy footage of a parking lot near the prey. Same terminal, headlights flicking on and off, doors opening, a person getting in a car that wasn't a taxi. The clip cut to a map with arrows along a highway and a photo of a motel where a victim's phone had pinged before going dark. Then a headline, 2 tourists still missing. Something cold moved through me like an elevator drop. I muted the TV and listened to the hotel air conditioner hum. I thought about the way the man had tried to place his foot in my path like a door wedge, like he did that a lot. I thought about how I almost stepped out of the rope because I was tired and impatient. I thought about how normal everything had felt until it didn't. On my way out, I asked the front desk if they could print me a small card with the official taxi app and the airport number. The clerk said they already had them and handed me one. It was simple. Use the official line, check the plate, call if you feel pressured, report any aggressive behavior. I don't think about what would have happened if I'd followed